Key watch players and offenses for week one, that and more this week on the Footballguys Dynasty Show. And Jordan, you want a couple of quarterbacks. If you had a crystal ball that you want to know how their offense plans to deploy said quarterbacks and said passing games.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts and Jameis Winston. Let me know how they're used. And I think that could be a defining feature of the quarterback position this year. It'll tell us whether or not Jalen Hurts has like the quarterback one upside. I think a lot of people have thought. We want them to throw a lot more than pass. I think one of the easiest ways to look at a dynasty or even fantasy analysis surrounding Jalen Hurts is the run pass split from last year. Early on in the season, threw it 40, drop back to pass 41 times a game. Multiple points per game better than the second half of the season when they only dropped back to pass 28 points per game. So if people are telling you that he's better off, in this run first offense, they're wrong. And we have pretty good evidence of that. So want them to throw in New Orleans was like the most run centric team in the league last year. And that included when Jameis Winston was, they were extremely run heavy when he was their quarterback as well. So I'm really interested to see what the changing coaching staff, sort of what those are. Those are my two big things that I'm really caring about early on. Like that, I think just knowing the drop back numbers for those teams will tell us a lot for how the season's going to unfold.
And for those two offenses, we saw them address the passing game, right? I mean, we saw A.J. Brown, huge addition, and sorry, Jalen Reagor, but a little better. We're projecting a lot better from that tandem as opposed to Reagor and a rookie Devonta Smith a year ago. And then for the Saints, we're not going to see a lot of anybody that was playing outside of Alvin Kamara last year. Michael Thomas, even if Michael Thomas doesn't play, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, instant upgrades over Marquez Callaway and others in that ragtag group. And they really handheld Winston. He had good numbers in terms of avoiding the interceptions, threw a lot of touchdowns. A lot of people thought that was fluky, but I think both of them are in opportunistic situations for good teams and to have a position to proactively pass, because they are good teams and they're actually in these games and it doesn't have to be in comeback mode type.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Winston, if I had to name three guys that I think are maybe the most super flex impactful with the potential with what they cost versus what they could provide. I think Kirk Cousins is one of those this year. Aaron Rodgers might be one because he's drifting out to QB 18 to 20 something. And then Jameis Winston, he's also out in the 20s of saying they could put up good enough seasons from your QB2 spot that all of a sudden you're starting two QB1s.
Isn't it so weird that you're starting like from deep in dynasty costs? You already have a quarterback who we've seen do it before, who has that sort of ceiling in a pretty good offense. And then at the same time, people are paying, top 20 picks, even higher than that for quarterbacks that A, haven't done it, B, aren't as good of offenses, and C, we don't even know if they can play. Like Jameis Winston has problems. He is not without flaws, but we know that he can hang a score on the scoreboard. We know that from a fantasy perspective. It's just so interesting when you juxtapose him against some of the people that the unproven players that people are taking earlier that we just know historically are worse bets.
Uncle Chad tells a quick startup story. I got squeezed out at QB2, had Patrick Mahomes, but 3-4 times didn't go my way. Round 2, round 3, round 4, 5-6 turn. Aaron Rodgers, Jameis Winston, QB 20 plus. So everything works out in the end. If Winston doesn't work out, I got Mahomes and Rodgers. Rodgers retires after this year, the next year. Winston works out. I'm good to go. So a lot of options. It was kind of weird because I was expecting to go Deshaun Watson. He's been a value flexion point. And it's kind of weird having my top three with not a guy on an 11-game suspension. So I'm going to say my key watch point for week one is the shaky running backs. I'm talking about health. I'm also talking about these offenses that aren't really optimizers anyway. Baltimore and with the Rams. You got Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, both significant injuries. And we've already heard talk from Jordan Rodriguez and others, that McVay says, hey, we got two running backs. We got two starting running backs. Not really what you want to hear when Henderson is cheap and Akers is expensive in dynasty terms. And Akers is coming back from an Achilles and maybe 72% of his former self. So, and Dobbins, oh, maybe kind of, sort of, let's put some asterisks in there. Like, it doesn't sound like he's playing week 1, Jordan. Let's start reading the tea leaves.
Are
Check's
we going to
watch.
be in like a Mike Davis, it's just going to be
Exactly.
a Mike Davis onslaught?
Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake are their plans. Gus Edwards not the plan, and J.K. Dobbins quickly not becoming the plan in week 1 either. These are not two offenses either that are conducive for high leverage opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
They don't throw to running backs a lot. Maybe they're going to be middle of the road ish in goal line opportunities. But how do you get to a top 5, top 10 season? And frankly, Akers, Dobbins, you need that in play, I think. I mean, just to be some young running back and value them in the top 15 to 16 of the position, you got to give me more. I mean, these guys are coming back from significant injuries. Here we are still with questions. I think they're more 2023 plays than they are 2022. I'm in for Mike Davis. Do I think he has top 8 upside? Not really. So, just because it's Lamar Jackson. It's going to be Lamar Jackson's show. Mark Andrews, he'll be fine. But these running backs, not really sure. Where do you stand on Kenyon Drake, though? If he's out there, he's been cut maybe. Is he someone that, hey, perfect storm, Dobbins maybe doesn't play a lot or even as close to the beginning of the season as we think? Is he worth, like if Jeff Wilson is out there and, Jalen Warren and guys like that, are you putting Kenyon Drake ahead of those guys based on profile?
No, I'm having Jeff Wilson ahead of him because Jeff Wilson, I know, is the injury away guy. I think Kenyon Drake is probably it in a best case scenario. It's a time split with Mike Davis, and
is he more of a pass centric guy, and he's going to a place that they don't target?
Yeah, his career has been like super weird too.
They haven't no one's really trusted him as a full on workhorse guy,
and it's weird because in Arizona he was the guy that. I think it was his last season in Arizona. So what would that have been? It was the year that Chase Edmonds before last year's. Yeah, it must have been 2020. I think it was 2020 when he was in Arizona. He was like supposed to get all these targets. That must have been, he came in 2019, 2020 was like supposed to be the big Kenyon Drake year. And then he basically was like a non-entity as a wide receiver or as a pass catcher. So like his career has been like super weird in terms of usage. So again, even if like that's his best case scenario, he's a difference maker as a pass catcher, like this isn't the place for him. You know what I mean? So and the same thing with Mike Davis, by the way. Like Mike Davis has been best when he's been catching a lot of balls. Neither one of those guys particularly well suited to play Baltimore.
Yeah, you got to roster Mike Davis just because I think he's the odds-on favorite to see the most touches.
Yeah.
He could pop a little bit if there's some smoke and fire about J.K. Dobbins. Maybe you flip him to the Dobbins owner. He still provides someone that if you're figuring things out at running back out of a startup setting or orphan situation, you just go, I don't have a whole lot. Well, you got Mike Davis, and he should be able to post a requisite amount of touches early on in the season. But yeah, Akers and Dobbins, I want to know where they go, just sort of stock market wise, if this year is not a year and last year was not a year for them. I mean, you're burning daylight here in prime window seasons, and people just didn't want to listen. They want to draft these guys highly. I saw a pretty contested trade. It actually got vetoed with Dobbins pulling big time assets. I mean, we're talking like Eckler plus in the market. And it's like, and a lot of people clamored about that deal being like, I mean, how can you value Dobbins that highly for these huge producer guys? So again, I just think both of these situations are fire in terms of stay away, keep your distance, and if you don't, you could get burnt.
Yeah, it's not a league we're in together, is it?
No.
Okay. Just making sure.
Actually, it might have been. Actually, it might have been. Now that I think about it.
I'll have to look here.
All right. Chad Parsons, Jordan McNamara, episode 119 of the Football Guys Dynasty Show. I want to remind you to look like a champion. Football Guys official gear and merch. You get that Black Eyed Joe logo. You want to sport the site that you subscribe to with those daily email updates. You subscribe to the site. We were just going over, we've got the big master plan, all the schematics for what the content's going to be. You've got different areas. They're covering college football a lot more. So if you dig into Devy, that's going to be covered a lot more. Dynasty's been beefed up for 2022. Not sure that's going away. It has its own special subscription option there. But again, you want to sign up. You also want to rep the gear, shop.footballguys.com. And you have a little window, money back guarantee. I don't mention all the time. You're not going to need it. Trust me. I worked in the refund department. Not a lot of those going on. So again, sign up this year. You're going to get DFS content if you want it. Redraft, Dynasty. and the great projections. So all that, subscribing to Football Guys and use our special link so they know you came from us. Footballguys.com/dynasty winners.
By the way, Chad, do you have stuff going on in season for your? What are you writing in season?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I'm one of the few people writing in week 1. So new reality. It's 180 installments deep. The Dynasty feature article, and that's out. I'm going to be talking in this week. We're talking rookie quarterbacks and running backs, the landscape of where they sit and projected heading into week 1, but it's going to start quickly, elevating to other macro team building topics there. I'm going to be doing some stuff on high leverage opportunities at the running back position. You hear us mention that on the show from time to time. We're going to talk about a lot more in season when we actually have targets and goal line looks to go around. And then a little bit about dynasty trading. And of course, I'm a part of the DFS projections and things like that. So you'll see me around the water cooler for sure.
Good. I'm doing dynasty waivers of the future, and we have a dynasty strategy trading centric article that I'm going to do. So you can catch us over there for all the weeks. All right.
Yeah, and if you've been a part of Football Guys, then you know that in previous years, this is a step up. This is an elevation. Sure. So again, if you like this content, especially you go into the next few weeks and you're like, dig into certain pieces, make sure reach out, whether it's Joe Bryan or just Football Guys, some email or in the forum, something, because just know that feedback is really important, whether it's for a podcast, whether it's for articles, because clicking through, reading it every week or most weeks, those types of things, plus just saying, hey, so-and-so is doing a great job. I love this piece of content, because everything is reviewed every year. So not necessarily a piece that's been around 2-3 years is coming back. For folks that remember, used to have game recaps, don't anymore. Part of that is feedback related, and a lot of content we try out. It might be for a month. It might be for a year. And so again, if you like something, make a little list. If it gets to October, here's the 3 or 4 things you read every week. Make sure Football Guys staff and positions of power know about it so that it stays around for you and your benefit.
Yeah, we're not just saying that either. It is actually it is feedback that we actually look at. It's talked about. So yeah, for sure.
It's time for the Stash of the Week, powered by Sleeper.
Here we go. Sleeper stash of the week. You want to be on board? These could be low-level players to put in your lineup, or you just want to have some exposure on your fantasy teams. This week, Sammy Watkins. He's always the week 1 flavor, but I'll say this, Romeo Doubs, is that going to really be a thing? He's probably going to be wide receiver 3, 4, 5 in the rotation if he plays a lot. Randall Cobb's going to be trusted, Alan Lazard, but Sammy Watkins is going to be a guy on the field when healthy a lot, at least early in the season. So don't forget about the guy that has a wide receiver 1 season under his belt. That was back on Jordan's team, Buffalo Bills, many moons ago. But Sammy Watkins, yes, we've heard this before. No, we're not saying it for week 8. It's week 1. And that means Sammy Watkins probably going to have a bigger role than potentially later in the season when not healthy, and maybe they've moved on to younger, more vibrant options.
Yeah, some fun stuff here on Sammy Watkins. Past 3 years, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 96 yards. That was last season. 2020, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown. And then 2019, 11 targets, 9 receptions, 198 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He followed that up with a 13-target game the following week. And that was when he was with Kansas City. So yeah, lots of opportunity there.
Keep him fresh.
Sammy
Watkins fresh. We should have a chart. Like if you just had a slope of like a rolling 5-game average, week 1 all the way down. By Thanksgiving, he's a cooked turkey. You don't even need.
Yeah, it's like one of those. It's like is Jimmy Garoppolo still on the 49ers thing? And it's like yes.
Yeah.
Or,
is it week 1?
Sammy Watkins
start fresh? Sammy Watkins. That's what it's going to be. What week is this? 1. Sammy Watkins fully in play.
Right. Absolutely.
And again, in deeper leagues, maybe he's lineup viable. We always say the what the heck flex, as Cecil and Sigmund like to say, but. Again, more just have them on your roster because, yes, we've been down this road before, but we want to know Kansas City and Green Bay. Those are the 2 passing games we probably know the least about with the biggest possible return if you get it right. Dynasty trading this week, we got 3 good ones. First one coming out of the FFPC realm, Kyle Pitts on the move and 1 quarterback. Got Kyle Pitts and Melvin Gordon for Dallas Goedert. Jameson Williams, a 23 first and second. So pretty big haul there for the Oracle, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, when I first read this, I read it as Javonte Williams, and I spent a lot of time like looking at it through the Javonte Williams lens. And then I went back and reread it, and I was like, "Oh, that's not that's Jameson Williams, not Javonte." I mean, here's the thing: like with this, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. I think the first, it's non-Superflex, so they're a little bit less valuable. I think a little bit of this it depends on how you think about Goddard. I do think it is really important in FFPC to have tight end solved. So I do think that weighs a little bit more towards Pitts. You don't see Pitts traded very often. And I think when you look at that, like through that lens, I think this might be light. You know what I mean? But I could sort of get to the idea of like, hey, here's kind of how this works. I might structure it a little bit differently. I do think it's a decent return, but I just in the lens of he's not traded very often, I think he can probably pull down more than this.
That's 3 firsts, right? I mean, Goddard's a first, Jameson Williams obviously a first, and then you have the first in in full there with the pick itself. Man, I it's shallow, so you always have to think in terms of consolidating deals. I mean, but that first has a lot of leverage, and we like Goddard. This is a pro Goddard room.
Yes.
Like
yes.
I'm a little surprised. I was just a little surprised. I know for us, probably ancillary Jameson Williams, don't know what he's going to be. And he's just kind of sitting there for a while for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but Goddard in a first is pretty interesting.
It's a big return, especially with the way we think about Goddard. And I think like there's a chance that Goddard can pace Pitts like in the next, we'll just harken back to what we thought about at the beginning of the show with Jalen Hurts. Like if they're gonna drop back and throw it a ton. Like there's a really good chance that Goddard paces Pitts the next year.
Well, and what happens if AJ Brown misses a collection of games like he commonly has?
Yeah, very
or
much. Or
his snap count isn't quite as high as you think it would be or should be.
Yeah. I'm interested. You know what? when we're done with this show, I'm gonna put this on Twitter. I'm gonna put a poll, and I bet you the Pitt side wins 90 to 10. I'm gonna make a
Jordan, I just thought of something. Since we have the trades in advance, why don't we put them up on Twitter and we can say what Twitter says?
We should do that. We should definitely. I'll get a response by the end of the.
There you go.
I'll get a response by the end of the show.
Right now, as we're talking about it, you're at least going to get some early poll results, and maybe we just pick one or two of them as we could do it the feature trade of the week, the Twitter trade of the week. All right. We're just spitballing on the show live fire here. Must be Labor Day. All right. We got 12-team, 1 quarterback, straightforward one here. David Montgomery for Zamir White and a 23 second.
It feels late for Montgomery. Like, I know he's not super.
People are coming with pitchforks for him, right? I mean, Khalil Herbert's going to take his job.
Yeah.
Calling me skeptical on that.
Yeah. And again, I mean, what is Zamir White like? I mean, I think people are shoveling on Montgomery's grave in the sense of what he's done in his career. So yeah, I would take Montgomery here. I think it's actually a cheap way to potentially go up a level and securing some of your running back. Some of your we talk about trying to eat those 14 starts. Like you going from Zamir White in a second up to Montgomery, you're definitely doing a much better job of that, especially if that's like a spot you actually want to sort of solve. And be able to stream some of the other spots. Like I think that's a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, and we'll see if the Bears can reverse the trend. They've moved from 3rd to 14th to 28th in a high leverage opportunity score the past 3 years. And obviously the last one is the closest to the iteration we're going to see this year with Justin Fields and maybe a limited passing attack. Hard to say that Allen Robinson is a big loss considering what Robinson didn't do last year. But he is. He is a big loss compared to what their wide receiver 2+ situation is currently. So yeah, I think Montgomery mid-career hasn't really hit the peak that a lot of people have thought, and now you're seeing traded for a song. I would remind folks, I mean, Zamir White, Amir Abdullah is going to have a role. I mean, Jacobs out of the way doesn't really make me feel super warm and fuzzy about some 3-down role for a rookie running back when Amir Abdullah, this is all he does is siphon PPR away from, he did it from Alexander Madison a little bit. He did it in Carolina away from Chuba Hubbard, who's a receiving centric guy. And he certainly can do it from Zamir White. So I would have pause there of thinking
Josh Jacobs.
What's that?
That's my question about it. We're not talking about Jacobs in this context, but I'm there's no player that maybe fascinates me more from a siphoning perspective than there is Amir Abdullah. Can he siphon from Josh Jacobs? Like his career high in routes run is less than 200 routes. And so when that's going back a ways, it was 193 last year. And before that, it was 157 with his time in Detroit. And that was 2017. And I just wonder, like,
the Raiders obviously value him though.
Yeah. Yeah.
They proactively brought him in. Kenyon Drake, bye. Again,
yes.
and they rested him, the whole preseason? Most of it? Proactively healthy scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, read
Career
the tea
high,
leaves.
289 yards receiving.
Now, the good news is the Raiders, number 1 in high leverage opportunity score, number 2 in running back targets last year. So, two guys can eat receiving wise. I just don't think it's going to be Zamir White if I play this out. So,
Right.
The main thing for this trade was, I think, this is bailing on Montgomery, and I think elevating Zamir White to this, if he gets the injury, he's going to be great. That's the main thing I wanted to highlight. That just and seconds, we don't know the roster size, but depending how shallow, those aren't always like auto. You have to kind of do something with the picks. You don't just want to sit there every year over year and draft a ton of second round guys. So that's another aspect. All right,
Agreed.
Final one here. We got stock 1 quarterback, Deshaun. We have Dotson and Jordan Mason, Jahan Dotson, and we have Trey Sermon and a 23 first.
This is going to come out crazy. Is Sermon actually better now that he's cut in Philadelphia than he was in San Francisco?
Yes. I think he's in a better situation. I think he's in a better offense for his skill set. I mean, we got a really good class, as Matt Waldman and a couple others kind of talk through him as a prospect and where they saw the best fits for scheme and all of that. And that the 49ers were basically one of the situations to not go to for Trey Sermon. And so sure enough, he went there. So now he's in a much more conducive system for the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's super interesting. I'm surprised that Dotson, like if you were just to throw out a Dotson for a future first, I think that's rejected almost universally.
Because that would be what, 112, 201? Well, actually,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's as high as 111, in a one quarterback.
Right. And
Now
maybe there's
there's
other players in that range that you can draw that from right now. But I just
Pickens for sure. I mean, if you got him in the later first, yeah.
Sure, but I don't think that it's Dotson. And again, I still like Dotson, but I think it's.
I think Sermon, and I will point this out. I mean, we say plenty of negative things about in the trade segment about you should have done this, you should have done that. Mm-hmm. Savvy, including Mason. Correct. He's got a little bit of juice that might have greased the wheels to get the first, and then you go, give me Sermon. It's still a 2-for-1, but you're like, give me Sermon. You clear a roster spot. You shed a hot spicy player who is running back 3/4 on his depth chart. Sermon could be the 2 in short order, and then you bank the first as well. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in this offer that I say well done.
Yes, I agree. But I will say all of that can be well and good. And then Boston Scott's still going to be like an 18-touch guy if Miles Sanders goes down with like all of it. He's going to get the receiving stuff and like the red zone stuff. And we're just going to be looking like this, like whatever happened to Trey Sermon. That's just what our world's going to be.
And especially if it happens now. I mean, Sermon just got there. Right. This probably is an October type, October, November arrival if Sermon is going to make headway and potentially be the guy that's getting some goal line, getting a lot of touches and a high efficiency run game paired with Hurts in the backfield. So,
why do the Eagles hate Miles Sanders? Do we have any
question? Let's table that for next off season when he probably goes somewhere else and he's freed. Right. And in 2023, like if he's already running back 30 something, like he got up to a point in a draft, I was like, you're just giving him to me. Like, right. He's not overly old. It's like David Montgomery plus in terms of like, why do you hate this guy? Sanders, they have never trusted him with the 1A. Maybe he can't stay, in terms of like elevating to foundational stuff. Maybe he's not that guy. Maybe they know him. Maybe it's, he's just not going to hold up for more than 3 weeks. But I don't know. I think he's going to have appeal if he goes out there and finds new opportunities. It'll be very interesting.
Yes.
But he's running out of some time. I mean, he's firmly in the middle and kind of getting to the back half of the prime production window here. So
who do you feel better about having an actual
Ooh.
running back one,
I know where you're going
like a
with this.
runway for running back one? Miles Sanders or Alexander Madison?
I knew you were going that way. I think
my mind's wired one
so.
way.
You said
It's right
true
around
running back
Alexander
one. True running back one.
Yes.
Depth chart or fantasy? You mean?
Well, if you think it's different, then go ahead and answer. Why you think it's different. I could see why you would think it's different.
Yeah. I think Madison has the better shot for the true foundational role, but I think they have probably pretty close odds, and Sanders even a little bit of an edge over actually securing a 1A good contract. I mean, look at the pedigree, and a lot of people might look at Sanders and be like, well, still has a lot of tread. I mean, Madison does too, but you're talking about a round 2 pick that hasn't done a lot to, I mean, he's had moments showing that he's one of the elite receivers at the position in the NFL, downfield stuff, and he's looked dynamic. He just hasn't put it all together. So Madison, I kind of keep going back and forth on this, man. It's going to be fascinating to see. He had a lot of apparently trade appeal, and the Vikings were like, no, Dikembe Mutombo.
You believe that? It read a lot like someone saying that like every girl in the dorm was like interested in him in college.
Right.
It seemed like
my roommate had the eyes of everybody. Right.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. Why are people running out to pick up Ty Chandler?
It's Kenny Ngannou.
No, I know, but Madison did not get traded. Did you miss the memo? He was courted or whatever. The point is he didn't actually get moved. Are people assuming in 2 weeks he will be moved? Like, I don't. And Wong Wu is good in his own right. Chandler is like an off-season guy. I want to have him December 23rd. And then I want to hold him into the off-season.
Waivers.
I don't want him now. I don't.
He's a waivers of the future candidate.
Yeah, exactly. Super future.
Right.
Leap year type future. I don't even know when the next leap year. Maybe it's next offseason. But it's a type of, I don't want to spend the roster spot for 3 months to get to the point where I might consider stashing him.
Yeah.
Someone roster him now. Don't freak out about it, and circle back to Ty Chandler in 3 months.
Right.
If he's available, and I bet in half of those leagues he will be, unless there's a deluge of injuries or Madison got moved. Then I think makes a little more sense. All right, Jordan, we got a chance for the dumbest thing I did this week.
I'm excited for this.
This is
becoming my favorite.
straight...
This is becoming my favorite segment in all of podcasting.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed. It might not have been to unruly levels when we recorded last week, but I grew out my beard and the scruff beyond a week, and I almost died. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? Because I have like weird patches of gray in random spots, and it's almost like I painted it, or I'm a skunk, and it's like it gets itchy and ridiculous. And you've had a lot more, like your percentage of weeks I've seen you with facial hair over 2-3 years have been a lot higher than before that time.
Yeah.
Part of that is your employment is slightly differently.
So it's like, yeah.
But the whole, like, am I a dope? Like, it feels much better when I once a week just do it, with its head, plus it's all the facial stuff. It gets itchy and ridiculous. And to be fair, my mustache is way too dark. It looks creepy.
It does. Yeah,
I can't go to any playgrounds, Jordan. It is very creepy. The mustache is it's thick.
Makes it even weirder because you don't have kids, so you shouldn't really be at playgrounds anyway. So.
I know. I went to a local park and I was watching some soccer, and the awkward thing is they go, "Which is yours?" And I go, and I just point. I don't know that one. Go Timmy. And then the awkward thing is when you point, it's actually their kid. That is the worst.
Yeah.
That is the worst. 60 kids had to point to that one. Oh God. Or you just see who they're rooting for, and then you start to root against them. They hate that. It's frowned upon by parents in general.
So good.
All right. We got quotes from the Footballguys Dynasty Forum this week. Quote, leaves me a little thin at wide receiver, hoping Sky Moore pays off.
Well, wide receiver depth is the most solvable issue. I think there's a huge supply of wide receivers out there that if you're just looking for targets, it's a pretty solvable issue and a cheap discount. And especially like if you're a contending team, people will get scared of wide receivers who are aging.
Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen, like Devontae Adams last year was eminently gettable at the trade deadline for like what wasn't much more than like a first equivalency. And, you know, I mean, like there's a lot of guys out there that you can figure out as you go along, right? And then you can do it in bigger trades, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to get receiver. And that's actually one of the best things that I'm super excited about in this season is I'm going to cover a lot of those things in the fixing your dynasty issues column. So that'll be one of them. That's going to be a constant theme, which is like, don't pay a ton to fix wide receiver unless you're actually solving a problem. But yeah, I mean, and again, if you Sky Moore, you can, if you like what you see, well, you get a solution. If you don't like what you see, like maybe you can trade him for something. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of that you can do as well.
I just don't think we should be surprised if Sky Moore has like a 28% snap percentage.
I don't think so either.
In week 1. I mean,
Right.
he's wide receiver 4, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Hardman's going to be ahead of him.
Right.
Juju's going to be ahead of him.
Yes.
Marcus Valdes-Scantling is going to be ahead of him. So again, this whole like just banking on rookies, especially Sky Moore, for example, I don't know. I mean, that's a road to like that. I don't think rookie wide receivers fix anything. It's just a bonus. Correct. It's a bonus if they develop early.
Correct. Yeah, they are an asset, right? And the way I would view this, like if you're sort of relying on Sky Moore, you're relying on Sky Moore's value, right? His ability to either produce or draw something in a trade. And I think that's one of the things about rookie wide receivers is that more and more we sort of look at some of these value things, we look at some of the cost things. They don't collapse in dynasty cost all that often, right? They tend to stay pretty close or rise in cost. I think sometimes it can be hard to sort of extract that in rookie picks, but if you're going from rookie wide receiver to veteran wide receiver, something close in the market, right? That should be a marketable thing to teams that are looking to rebuild. You know what I mean? Like you can find a matching system there and find a solution at wide receiver. So I wouldn't just sort of narrow in on, if Sky Moore is not the solution to my wide receiver 4 problem, I'm stuck. It should be, all right, is Sky Moore as an asset, like a solution to that problem if I trade him or include him in a deal, or maybe I can even go up, right? Right, you package Sky Moore with a hot starter, and then all of a sudden you actually do have a top 20 wide receiver, something like that. That's eminently doable.
Yeah, and I just go all the way back to when you took Sky Moore somewhere between 108 and 112, let's say. I mean, you had liquidity with the pick, and you made a proactive decision to not trade that pick for something else and draft Sky Moore. And I think a lot of times, again, people kind of lose sight that in Dynasty, I mean, the most extreme is when I say you had every day to potentially trade this player away, and now you're left holding the bag. If that was a player because of the opportunity eroded, they're just not that good. They're coming off a big year. They get injured, whatever. But you've had ample opportunity to trade every single player on your roster in terms of duration. And I'm sure you haven't sent offers every day. And so you might not think 108, I'm trading for a veteran. I'm going to see what's out there. I'm just running to the podium and taking the best available player on my board. And that's Sky Moore in this case. And I think a lot of people, and in the last 2 years, especially 2022, I spent more time shopping the picks that I had. And I didn't necessarily trade them all, but I had a greater sense of the marketplace of what do I prefer, and will the market yield that in terms of veteran profiles or veteran plus a future pick or just whatever I was looking to do. And I made a lot of trades, trading picks away. And I scout the class closely. I have plenty of target players, but that still doesn't mean that trading them away can't be the optimal play value-wise and for your team construction. So I'll go all the way back to, well, you took Sky Moore, and then this was actually alluded to in a trade that they traded away a guy that's probably going to be more productive this year and part of their plan. So they traded away the veteran, and now it's more on Sky Moore to supplement that is their thinking.
I mean, with whatever's happened in the off season with Sky Moore or any of these guys, like how much should it really change your calculus on them? Like, I don't think whatever's happened to Sky Moore between the time he was drafted and now should really change all that much.
Are there any rookie wide receivers offhand you can think of that arc through the opening 3-4 months has changed?
Dobbs, right? I think Dobbs, but
anyone like in an overly negative way, let's say.
that's just collapsed. I mean, I think people would
Not,
think
not
that about
collapsed,
Watson.
but
I wouldn't.
who?
Uh, Watson would be one that I think would have a little bit of concern because but that again, that's injury.
Right.
And again, we've seen some competition from its depth chart. That would be one that I would think of. But I'm not super worried about it. I mean, Jamison Williams is going to be a slow starter all the way. I mean, Treylon Burks is maybe confirming some of our priors, right? He's about, was he in shape? Like that had been sort of percolating. And so if you sort of wind up drawing that, I think you could maybe draw on that. That might be the one that I'm super concerned with. But a slow transition from a guy who went to, from a non-Power 5 school to going into the Kansas City offense with a guy that they spent. I mean, there's no chance that he was going to crack the top 2 in this offense in September. There's no chance of that, right? They spent $30+ million guaranteed on Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Juju Smith-Schuster's there. And, his best bet was that he was going to sort of entrench himself into a wide receiver 3 role, which, I mean, maybe that's ultimately where his role comes from. But the fact that the veteran that's been there for a while is sort of stuck in that system and they're not moving him out shouldn't be terribly surprising to us. So, like, I don't think the fact that he's going to be the 4 on the wide receiver in week 1 is all that concerning about a guy like Sky Moore.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys, you're looking for a mid-season or later season kind of pop, or 2 or 3 unpredictable, couldn't have seen it coming, kind of pop weeks. And there you go, had 400 or 500 yards maybe, and moving on, and maybe something changes on the depth chart, and now you're cooking with something going into year 2.
Yep,
it's probably the arc you're looking for. I have never played Superflex or FFPC, but it feels like a lot to give up to get Justin Herbert. Apparently, it should cost less. But talk through FFPC, but also talk about Superflex for folks unfamiliar with quarterback value. I mean, coming over from the one quarterback landscape of trading and player value, it can be rather stark, just like a 2 tight end league could be for folks that are unfamiliar.
Yeah, not that we have any personal ongoing issues about a 2 tight end league that we're trying to solve. Yeah, I mean, quarterbacks become Superflex. If you haven't tried it, like, you definitely should give it a go, because again, it's exposing you to more players, and it's like the same thing if you've only played stock tight end scoring or just start one scoring at tight end. Like, there's a whole universe of guys out there that you probably haven't spent a ton of time thinking about, that like playing that aspect of the position makes you a better dynasty GM, and it just is fun, right? We're talking about, some of the text messages that we have revolving around reserve tight ends are somewhat comical, maybe alarming to some folks in terms of the depth of which we're going at some of these tight ends. But again, it's fun, right? And it's the same thing at quarterback. And so, having a guy like, there's almost not a cost that's too much to pay for Justin Herbert. Like, there's almost not too, we've had segments on here where is this too much? Did you get enough for Mahomes? And we never say yes. We almost always say no, right? And so it just really moves the needle, and it makes it a different. It makes it a much more fun and I think competitive game, because there's just more assets that are
more valuable.
matter. Right? Yeah, they just matter more. So yeah, so I'm a big fan of Superflex, 2 quarterbacks, like the premiums at tight end. I think make the game a lot more fun. Starting multiple of them is fun too. I mean, some of the premiums basically act like 2 tight end required. So I mean, playing in those depths, I think it really changes. You have to understand them going in too. I was in it, and I was talking to you about this. I'm in the middle of a draft right now where it's Superflex, it's tight end premium, but it's not 2 tight end, it's just 1 tight end. And it was like a fire hose of guys just quarterbacks, and everyone was going, and it was, I think, half the top 60 picks were quarterbacks and wide receivers. I mean, it was crazy in terms of the pace. It was just much faster than I had seen it go, and it's just, you have to adjust to that. And if you're just playing stock 1 quarterback, you don't have those experiences that sort of make you a better dynasty GM.
And in a lot of startups, just to give a team building example, I mean, you might see 14, 15 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds. And in a start 1, I mean, I haven't played one in a while, but 0. Right. Maybe they come off the board late 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I mean, the top guys, maybe, but it's just a whole different landscape. So if you don't want quarterback to have that type of value, then obviously, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, but it does mirror the NFL a lot closer than the start 1, where, everyone can get one pretty easily, and getting even a second one, people start rostering 3 or 4 because they look and they go, oh my gosh, I can't put this guy to the waiver wire. So we talk about that all the time on the show of just, it traps you in with having too many quarterbacks sometimes in a start one because of available options and them being bigger, more no names for sure. We got one more here. But if Damien Pierce is a productive rookie and with volume he should be, someone will pay a future first. I've seen it with Zach Stacy, Trey Mason, James Robinson, Marlon Mack, etc.
I mean, you should be able to probably get that right now. Like I've seen that.
He was going mid-first in some of these rookie drafts the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And I just did the trades that explain the last week in Dynasty that I just released on the site that have Damien Pierce for first trades in it. It's Damien Pierce plus, or it's a first plus for Damien Pierce in some of these trades. So I think that's gettable. You're not going to get it in every league, but I think if you shop it around, you're going to get that or an equivalent of that. I would just say one thing. I think a general rule you have to remember when you're trading a guy like Damien Pierce, like, now's your opportunity to take a pound of flesh, right? Like you don't trade it for a lateral move. You don't trade it for what you paid for it. You have to go up in dynasty assets, whether that's a future first or something that's worth more, that's more durable. You need a better asset, right? You're trying to jump up in asset classes. So either package him and something else and go up the board, or truly don't just take like a second and like a backup running back. Like that's the biggest mistake you can make, because now's your opportunity to really reshape your dynasty team by trading him for something that really matters. And like, you should really be focused on doing that. And that's a way to just trading him for something that's, equal or in a package isn't going to make your team in a way that Damien Pierce's value should.
Would you take a chance going and having him play, or do you think you would check and at least gauge the market in the moves you just referenced before week 1 kicks off?
Would I take a second plus for him right now, or would I take a first? I would take a first for him right now. Like okay. if you can trade a day 3 rookie for a future first round pick, you should do it every single time. You should. That should be it's like you could program a robot.
But they don't miss out on Stephon Diggs and Antonio Brown.
Yeah, but let me tell you what. If you had given me and Tyreek Hill, but if you had done that,
those guys, in addition to Jeff Janis,
right, right, and the hundreds of other guys, right?
It's 2 for 3.
Yeah,
67%.
Stacy and all the Trey Masons and all the other.
It was really easy.
Jordan Howard would have been an exception maybe to the rule, but yeah, I mean, I think that should be a rule. Like you have to have a darn good reason to do it. And Damien Pierce is not that, right? It has to be something that we haven't seen really happen come from day 3. And I think the general rule should be, if you get that, you take the first and you just profit.
Yeah. And again, I mean, Houston has not been a high leverage opportunity team, and they wouldn't project to be so again. They don't really, it's not that, they traded for Russell Wilson. I mean, so just you really need to be careful. So if you say he doesn't have huge touchdown upside by opportunity, he wasn't used in the passing game in the preseason. I don't think he played on one obvious passing situation. They have Dare Gubawale. The backups they have are Rex Burkhead and Dare Gubawale, who are pass-centric guys or pass-capable, very capable as veterans. So, I mean, if he's not going to average, 3+ receptions a game, and you say it's not a high-octane offense and they haven't been producing goal line opportunities, what are we talking about here? He's going to be the total. He could look good, run over a few guys, empty calorie touches, and he could be, 14 carries for 72 yards, 1 catch, 8 yards. Quick math. Not a great fantasy score.
How does 24th in expected points from the running back position feel for you from Houston?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I like, again, so I would do that in a heartbeat. If I can't get that, I would shop it other ways. I think as a last, because I think even if he starts slow, I think you can get a second plus. You can get a second for him in season, right? Like I wouldn't do like that. Just feels like it's capitulating,
right?
So I would absolutely find a way, whether it's him, whether it's whether it's him straight up, whether it's him in a package for a first, whether it's him, in a package for some other elite player. Like now it's like use him to upgrade at quarterback and Superflex. Like there's a lot of ways that I would go. Like I would spend a lot of time. There's a lot of value in spending that time on trying to fashion a trade that makes sense than to just take a second. So
yep.
I think that's a
Send
mistake.
20 plus offers in your league.
Yes.
It's a great time to work on that exercise if you have not done it, using it as Damien Pierce.
Right.
And from the chat, Pierce is going in the 3rd round now of redrafts.
Yes.
Whoo!
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
I have I'm in a home league where it really values this year, and we keep 7 guys, so it's basically just the rookies at the top. 102. He went at 102. So he went. I took Hall at 1. He went at 2. So
neck and neck,
right up there at the top.
All right. In this episode, we discussed a lot about profiles. I think some good discussion there on Sky Moore, Kyle Pitts in shallow formats, and of course, some of the risky guys and risky situations and questions we want to know and watch players for week 1.
Hey, I got 260 votes, by the way. I got 260 votes on Pitts.
Good enough.
You want to guess what the results are?
So I will say that it's going to be Kyle Pitts, 62%.
Are you looking at my Twitter feed right now?
No.
It is Kyle Pitts at 62%.
I love this game. All of a sudden, we have a new segment. Jordan puts the Twitter poll out. 62%. Yes. I can only go down from here. You know what? Yes. Now, next week's segment, smartest thing I did this week. Correctly guessed a random number for Jordan's Twitter poll. Smartest thing I did. I'm already locking it in for the next 7 days.
Yeah.
Lineups,
62.5%.
not something with the family.
Be technical about it, I guess we're rounding up, but no, it's 62%.
Wow.
For Kyle Pitts.
Honestly, I think it should be closer than that. I think it should be more even than that.
Yeah,
you sound like you would expected it to be high.
So. I thought it was going to be higher. Yeah, I thought it would be higher. So. All
right. Yeah. Not everyone's digging what Dallas Goedert is putting on our plates there.
Nope.
First, people usually go for the first, man. I'm a little surprised.
Yes, yeah, that's true too. That's true too. But I just think Pitts is so valuable. But again, it's basically 3 first. So, it's a big haul. It's a big haul.
Big haul, but Kyle Pitts is a big haul.
He is a big haul.
All right, so we discussed week 1, and again, one of our stashes of the week, Sammy Watkins. I mean, he's been probably top 24 play when you look at week 1s alone in the past few years.
Put him on your he better be on your top 12 DFS ranks this week, Chad. That's what we're going to
Yeah, and part of the reason we're recording on Monday, so excited about week 1. Yes. It's just like, you go to bed earlier, all of a sudden Christmas morning comes that much quicker because you fall asleep. So we record this show. I mean, maybe our season will start on Wednesday. Maybe we'll get to see the Bills game on Wednesday. All right. Oh, do you have any Bills predictions? I haven't asked you Bills specific questions in months.
It's going to be super weird, by the way, because I have spent 9:30 and Tuesday nights recording with you for 6+ years. So I don't know. Like I'm going to be walking around in circles tomorrow. I think it's 9:30.
Your hobby.
I think I missed it once when we were in the hospital with my second.
Yeah.
That's literally the only show we've missed at that time.
99.9% attendance rate.
Yes, it's been good. I mean, I don't know, man. Bills, like
who sees the most touches for the Bills backfield?
Super Bowl or bust. Singletary. Week 1, Singletary.
Week 1, Singletary.
Singletary week 1.
Does over the course of the season, does James Cook make them change their ways of not targeting running backs?
Yes. The reason why James Cook is going to make them change their ways about targeting running backs is because Devin Singletary is so bad. Devin Singletary is probably the worst pass catching running back. He is targeted on an extremely low percentage of his routes he's been run. And when you can actually compare that to some other guys who have had some smaller samples, like Zach Moss, like in that offense as well. I think Duke Johnson as well. Like when you look at some guys that have had some actual sample in that offense, he's staggeringly below them in the amount of routes he's actually been targeted on. So I think with a guy like James Cook, the reason that they haven't been involving the running back position that much of the passing game is because they have a running back who's bad at it. J.D. McKissick and James Cook are both attempts to actually fix that problem. And so I do think it's going to change their ways. Like they involve their running back in the passing game a lot by putting him out in routes. What they don't do is actually throw it to Devin Singletary because he's running a lot of those routes pretty poorly. So I think that's my takeaway is yes, I think he's going to change their ways. And it's probably not in a way that's super different than they've actually been structuring their passing game. It's just where those targets will go, I think will be a little bit different. And
final one, will Gabriel Davis produce higher on a per game basis than his Dynasty ADP?
Well, the marketplace likes him too. I saw Cecil project 1,000 yards this week on a Twitter thing. I told him that Bills Mafia was going to adopt him, so that was fun. So yeah, I mean, I think he's probably undervalued in Dynasty. Well, that being said, I saw him at wide receiver 18 this week, which seems a little high, but he's projected higher in redraft than he is in Dynasty, which I think is a thing you kind of lean towards the current year projection. And honestly, in his case, it doesn't make sense that people are sort of ragging. Like he isn't old, right? Like it's the only time I can remember where there's like a young guy that's actually projected to do something that we're actually like putting an anchor on his price. Like we never do that. We always get overhyped about young guys. It's the opposite of, it's totally weird. And so
I had a Jordan moment in a startup draft because Jalen Waddle fell beyond where he finished as a rookie in the order. So top 10 pedigree, I think he fell to wide receiver 16 and he was wide receiver 14-ish in adjusted points per game. And I had a Jordan moment where I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. Like, is he 30? Is this Mike Evans? Like, who is this? Who is this profile? You're not Jalen Waddle. I don't believe you. Couldn't have been it. Oh, and then is top 5 is crashing the big boys at the position within the range of outcome for Dawson Knox.
Yes, but I think it would have to be.
Is he a sneaky bet to do that?
I wouldn't bet it. I think it's pretty unlikely. He hasn't really gotten better, like statistically. He's just scored more like he's been used in more efficient ways, but he hasn't really gotten better. So I don't see like an Andrews type situation for him. He would really need to like pile on some touchdowns, and not that he's in a role that could absolutely do that. I don't see like a top 3 to 5 finish for him. I struggle to see that with him.
Okay. And Bill's Hour officially complete. Put 2-3 minutes there at the end. Had to cover it in our off-season coverage there. Squeeze it in the last episode.
Do you have a pick for NFL MVP? We did this
for
last
NFL
year.
MVP?
Yeah, I think we did the last 2 years actually.
Really?
Yeah. I picked Dak Prescott 2 years ago and he broke his leg while on it.
So maybe we shouldn't. What you're saying? Maybe we should not do that.
Right.
No, wait. Trey Lance? Trey Lance MVP?
Like the actual break leg.
How 0.5 game starts over under for Jimmy Garoppolo without a Trey Lance injury.
So basically you could say is
will he start?
Is Trey Lance going to get benched? Basically, that's the question.
Is he going to healthy not start?
Here's what's going to happen. It's going to be like a Mahomes situation. He's going to get them so far in advance of the 1 seed in the NFC that they're going to bench him in week 18 and Garoppolo's going to get a week 18 start. How about that for a backdoor? Is that a backdoor cover? Is that a backdoor cover on this?
Here's where I want to live rent free in the heads of folks that drafted Trey Lance in the mid-first if he gets benched.
104 in a startup draft.
I cannot imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah. What's worse than that? So yes, that would be pretty bad. I have another one though that I think would be tough, which is Malik Willis. I just want to make sure I get this right because I don't want to disparage this pick because I think I might. Malik Willis at 20 overall. How does that feel?
Wait, in a rookie draft?
March 5th.
Rookie draft?
5th, in a startup draft.
One quarterback? I don't know if that's worse or better. What March
5th, Malik Willis.
That was when he's projected to
overall.
Possibly or probably go in the top 10. How wrong we were about the quarterback position at that point in time. 3 top 10s? Ritter was going to be another one. It's going to be epic. Wow. Well,
Yep.
we talk about knowns and unknowns. At that point in time, plenty of unknowns, like draft position.
Correct.
Do you think Malik Willis sees starts over a healthy Ryan Tannehill this year?
Yes.
Wow. Is that based on Tennessee's record or just?
I think Tennessee could be pretty bad this year.
Okay. But do you think they will be bad quick enough? And
Well,
you mean not pushing for the playoffs, like a playoff eliminated bad?
That position is that division is so bad.
Right. How are they going to be non-competitive in the division? We know the wild card is probably going to be out of reach.
Right.
If you're,
I almost want to take like Jacksonville because I'm like everyone else stinks. Like I'll just take Jacksonville to win the division. It's sort of what I'm thinking.
At plus odds.
Yeah, right. Like everyone's.
Well, we've seen Tennessee be competitive and win a truckload of games, even without Derrick Henry. So if Henry plays, even if Henry plays half the season, the first half, are they not right there for the division the point he leaves? I have a hard time thinking they turn the page. Turn the page and be like, our season is over. Let's go to Malik Willis.
That's fair.
That's the one concern I have there that I don't have with Atlanta and some of these other situations. Pittsburgh might be another interesting one. Trubisky doesn't look great, but you know what? They're competitive.
Right.
They're competitive and in these games and circling 500. Are they really making a move? I don't know.
Are they a sneaky bet to win the AFC North? I gotta go look at the odds. I'm gonna spend the rest of my evening looking at that.
Exactly. We're gonna do props. Doing props and season-long bets.
Yes,
coming up.
Exactly what everyone tuned into the Footballguys.
We record on Monday, so Tuesday we can do our betting show. Debut for 2022. I don't know. That's a little that's just adding more to the unapproved plate for Cecil Lammy for the station manager.
Yes.
Sorry, Joe. Not a real show. Not a real show. That was one thing I said I was going to record on Monday.
The Sorry Joe shirt.
There you go. Sorry Joe shirt. Exactly. I should have it. I say more things that are Sorry Joe.
Yes.
Definitely.
It's a better filter than you.
I mean, come on. I can't even say the right message. I said, is it okay if we record on Monday this week? I have a conflict, but I wrote it in a way that made it seem like till the end of time, right. Starting this week forever. I don't know. I have conflicts every single Tuesday for the rest of my life. Sorry, last minute notice. Just found out yesterday. Forever. I'm having kids every Tuesday night. Yes. Can't make it. All right.
Yes.
That's a lot of vamping at the end. We still got it under an hour. So well done.
Got it under an hour. Got it.
Exactly. Everybody enjoy week 1. We made it through 8 months of the off season. 2/3 of our dynasty life is living in the off season. We're finally here. It's lineup season. It's win your league season. Please don't punt a week. Please don't assume you're not competitive. Play it out until at least October, November, because you're probably better than you think you are. Even if you're bad, you can still be competitive. I'm Chad Parsons. He's Jordan McNamara. And until next time, good luck in your dynasty leagues.